Hello, this is the unpacking, slightly many years after the unpacking of the other Lord of the Rings box. This is for the third pack in the first expansion cycle. This is Journey to Rhosgobel. Just going to have a look at the player cards. Not going to look at the adventure because people are concerned about spoilers, but if you're super concerned about the cards that are in the pack, I'm surprised you're watching an unboxing of the player cards, but spoilers. Just going to have a look. I know the game fairly well, but there are those more intricate timings that might go slightly awry. So any mistakes, if you notice something that I'm saying that's just wrong, not subjectively wrong, but objectively wrong, just post in the comments so that I can amend, because I have got things wrong before with some of the more intricate timings. So the first card, of course, is the hero. It is Prince Imrahil. He's threat 11 with 2 spirit, 3 attack, 2 defense, and 4 hit points. Of course, he's a leadership hero, and he will naturally, therefore, be compared to Aragorn. He's only 1 threat lower and 1 hit point lower. He's got stats that are very similar, which are really impressive. Obviously, good questing, good defense, and amazing attack. He hasn't got Sentinel, but he does share a similarity in Aragorn, in that Aragorn's big thing is that he can come back. So really you get 2 uses out of him, which mitigate his high threat. Imrahil, he has the text response. After a Gondor character, that'd be awful. After a character leaves play, ready Prince Imrahil, limit once per round. He's also got the Gondor trait and the Noble trait. Noble doesn't do anything in the first cycle, so that's moot. But Gondor, of course, does relate to that excellent Gondor event in the leadership cycle. Now, obviously, he's not nearly as flexible as Aragorn. I mean, Aragorn, as long as you've got the money, and when you combine him with Theodred, you're always really going to have that money to ready him every turn. Imrahil relies on your characters leaving play. Obviously, it's character, so if a hero leaves play, you also get to ready Imrahil. Hooray! That's probably going to be scant compensation. But obviously, his ability relates to a lot of things like sneak attack, so the hero comes into play for 1 phase, leaves play, and Imrahil will ready. If you're going to throw a weak defender, Snowborn Scout, who really, once he's turned up and died anyway, you weren't going to do anything more with him, Imrahil will ready. There are a few spirit allies that discard from play after they do their ability. Imrahil will come back, and obviously, really, he's the sort of hero you need to build a deck around. Aragorn's, as I said, much more flexible. He is that little bit more, he's that bit higher threat, but you can put Aragorn in any deck, and he'll probably do well. Imrahil, to get the most out of him, if you're not just going to be readying him when allies are dying, you're going to want to put certain allies and certain cards like sneak attack and other events that put allies either out of play or into your hand or things like that. Right, so that's Imrahil. The next card is a leadership card. It is Dunedain Quest. It's a 2-cost attachment. It's a signal. You have to attach it to a hero, and the attached hero gains +1 willpower. And there is an action. You can pay 1 resource from the attached hero's pool to attach Dunedain Quest to another hero. Obviously, this is very similar to Favour of the Lady from the core box, which is a spirit attachment, which is 2 cost and simply adds +1 willpower. This is, for all intents and purposes, very similar, except it has the added benefit that you can move it. I mean, you're not going to do that terribly much, but, you know, the option's there if, for some reason, the given character can't quest, caught in a web, maybe. But, you know, you're not going to criticise a card for costing the same as another card and having an effect. And this is an out-of-spirit way to boost your willpower, which is great. You chuck 1 of these on a hero and you can turn a 1, which is naff, into a 2. So that things like Tharlin, who, I mean, admittedly he's tactics, but Theodred, who's in leadership and you want him questing to give that resource to another hero, now you can really get a benefit from him questing because you upped his questing to 2. I mean, if you chuck multiples of these on heroes, you know, you could, in theory, increase Theodred to 2, 3, 4 willpower. I mean, and same with somebody like Aragorn, who's always going to be wanting to be questing as well. I really like Dunedain Quest. You've got to quest in this game. There's no way around that. And this just gives you that little bit of the bonus. And at 2, it's perfectly reasonably priced, because that'll be there for as long as you can keep the attachment on the hero. The next one is a leadership event called Parting Gifts. It's a 0 cost, so you can't criticise the cost, but the 0 costs so often obviously have a weaker effect. This is action. Move any number of resource tokens from a leadership hero's resource pool to any other hero's resource pool. I'm not a big fan of this. It's a hard card to justify going in a deck. I mean, it can work very well if you just want to run a single leadership hero, put in Steward of Gondor, and then you're going to be generating a lot of resources for this one hero who might then not relate to your other 2 characters' spheres in the deck. But with this, you can move that ton of resources across if you need to. It could be a helpful card, useful if you're just going to put in a single leadership hero, but you want 2 different spheres. And it's a 0 cost. Right then, now we go to the tactics. Got through a second there. The tactics card. First one is an ally. It is Ravel, who's 5 cost, 1 willpower, 3 attack, 1 defense, and 4 hit points. He is a creature and an eagle. He's a sentinel, and he cannot have restricted attachments. He has the text response. After a hero card is destroyed, return Ravel to his owner's hand to put that hero back into play with 1 damage token on it. Limit once per game. I'm not entirely sure how you would necessarily keep track of the once per game, but I suppose you'll remember because heroes dying is pretty significant. Obviously, he's unique, so you can only have 1 of him in play at a time. It's interesting, he's got 3 attacks, so he's a really good attacker. He only has 1 defense, but 4 hit points, and he has Sentinel. So obviously he can be a really good defender. 5 cost, though, is huge. I mean, that's the same that you're paying for a Gandalf. I mean, you're only getting Gandalf for the 1 turn, but 5 is a good couple of turns resource generation. But obviously he can save a hero from death. And up until now, there's really only been that 5 cost spirit event, which can return a hero. I've never seen the hero ability come up, but it's one of these things that usually if heroes die in our group, we've basically lost the quest anyway. But he's a really heavy hitter, and he does key quite nicely with some of the eagle attachments that allow you to give the eagle stat to another hero in play, and so you can give that massive 3 attack. He's very expensive, but sometimes you do want those heavier cards in your deck, and if you're building an eagle deck, this guy really is, he's the king of the eagles. I believe that's the case anyway. He's got a nice bit of jewellery around his neck. Our other tactics card in this pack is To the Eyrie, 2 cost event. It has the text response. After an ally is destroyed, exhaust 1 eagle character to move that ally from the discard pile to its owner's hand. So obviously this is just allies, not heroes, but those are what are dying most of the time, and it's exhaust an eagle character. You don't have to discard them. This is the sort of card again. You need to build an eagle deck obviously for it to really work. But obviously, it keys very nicely with Prince Imrahil, because that ally is going out of play. Imrahil's going to ready, but you are still down an ally. With this, you simply exhaust an eagle, and you've got that ally back in your hand. It really saves you, that horrible feeling of having a handful of attachments. Your allies are dying. You're drawing 1 card a turn. It's not an ally. Now that ally's back in your hand. It's a pricier event at a 2 cost. I mean, if you think about some of the other massive 2 cost events, but if you're building an eagle deck and you've got some key allies that are worth paying 2 cost to get back into your hand, or in the context of the situation you're not drawing the allies and you've got weak draw, this could be a real saver. So now we go to the spirit deck, which is my favourite, so I'm completely biased, and this is Escort from Edoras. It's a 2 cost spirit ally with 2 willpower, 0 attack, 0 defense, and 1 hit point. Not much of an escort. He has the trait Rohan, and while committed to the quest, Escort from Edoras gets +2 willpower. But he has the text forced. After resolving a quest to which Escort from Edoras was committed, discard Escort from Edoras from play. So really, this guy almost isn't an ally. You can almost see him more as an event, because he's only ever going to get involved in a single quest. But he's going to be contributing 4 willpower to that quest. That's the same as sending Gandalf. Gandalf's only around for 1 turn. This guy's only going to go on 1 quest, but for 2 costs you get 4 willpower. Obviously in Spirit, that's good, because Spirit is the willpower deck. But if you can afford this 2-cost card as splash with a single Spirit hero who you're trying to give some willpower to another sphere of deck, this is a massive card. I'm not personally a fan of it compared to other cards in the Spirit deck, but that's because I play Spirit, so I don't really want to be discarding my allies. There are so many. You need those allies in your deck. Obviously, he keys very nicely, again, with Prince Imrahil, because he turns up, he quests, Imrahil can go on the quest, and then when this guy leaves, Imrahil readies, so you've got him for attack or defense. +4 is massive. So you can just have him on the table, and then when you need to send him, you send him on that big turn when you need that big push, and you get that +4. Now, I did say, think of him as an event, but of course he's not really as good as an event. An event that added +4 would be fantastic. This guy does only have 1 hit point, so he goes on that quest, and you get a card revealed like Necromancer's Gaze, and 1 damage to all characters committed to the quest. He's dead before and he's not contributed anything. In a pinch as well, I suppose you could put him on the table, and he's something that you can throw in front of some huge nasty Ghibli that would eat a hero. It's not the perfect use of him, but it's there. So now other Spirit card is an attachment, the Ancient Manthan, and it's a 1-cost attachment. It has the text Manthan, which doesn't mean anything in the first cycle. You attach it to a location, and it has response. After the attached location is explored, the first player draws 3 cards. I think one of the things you realise the more and more you play Lord of the Rings is just how vital card draw is. Obviously, the lore deck has got some card generating mechanics. The Spirit deck, up until now, hasn't really had anything like that. So this card is really, really useful. 3 cards is 3 turns worth of draw. And if any deck is going to be smashing those locations, it's going to be the Spirit deck. I love this on locations that you knew you were going to go to anyway. Not the ones that you think, can we just hang that in the area and it's not the end of the world. These are the ones you knew you were going to have to do anyway. Importantly, it is when a location is explored, not when a location is travelled to. And while that sounds like just a timing difference, you could attach this to a location that you would never intend to travel to. Those really nasty ones like Mountains of Mirkwood or the Necromancer's Pass. And then with cards that can add progress tokens without needing to actually have that as the active location, things like the Snowborn Scout or the Northern Tracker. When those locations are finished in the staging area, this would still key off. So this can be, I really like Ancient Manthan, but that's because I need card draw and I like the Spirit deck. Talking about the deck that has a lot of draw, it's the Lore deck. Let's go to the Lore ally that you get in this pack. It is Haldir of Lorien. He's a 4-cost, 2 willpower, 2 attack, 2 defense, 3 hit point beast. He is a Sylvan. He is both ranged and sentinel. He is a multiplayer dream. He can do it all. And he's in the Lore deck, who haven't necessarily had the most aggressive allies, and haven't got the strongest heroes. But this guy is just an absolute. It's like having an extra hero on the table. There are those allies that really are basically heroes that don't generate resources. For him to be able to contribute his 2 attack, for him to be able to contribute his 2 defense, and 2 willpower. The only weakness with a card like this, of course, is that he does everything, so you're paying for everything. Sometimes, obviously, you just really want your ally to do one thing really well, so you just pay for that. Here, you're paying for a 2-2-2-3 and those traits. But at the same time, there are those times when you need somebody that can do everything. He is absolutely great. 4 is obviously expensive. That's more than 1 turn of resource generation. But rarely have we ever seen Haldir come out and not just been overjoyed. Obviously, he's unique. So there is always that niggle when you put him in a deck that if you put 3 copies in, your 1 draw that turn could be a Haldir that you've already got in play, therefore you can't play him. But at the same time, there are so many useful methods, I think, for discarding cards. Travel locations, Protector of Lorien, which is in the lore deck. So if you've already got Haldir in play, you're not in a position where you're going to throw him away. Well, that extra Haldir in your hand just to become fuel. I mean, that's not great, but love Haldir. He's a real favourite in our group. Now we have the Lore event. Lore has some absolutely fantastic events. This is a 1-cost event called Infighting, which is also the name of the terrible game. Action: move any number of damage from one enemy to another. Obviously, as is the case with a lot of events, this is very situational. However, I would say it's a deceptively powerful card. I was never the biggest fan, and then played with a friend who really likes his Lore deck on the previous quest pack, the Conflict at the Carrack, and we nurtured an enemy who was forest snared and would attack him with, I think it was a Dol Guldur Beastmaster, so he's only got 1 defense but a ton of hit points. We would attack the Dol Guldur Beastmaster, get him up to 4 damage, and then infighting the damage across to one of the big trolls, obviously bypassing their massive defense, or even necessarily having to engage them. This doesn't need to be an enemy you've engaged. If they've got damage on them, you can send that across. It is absolutely huge for damaging those low defense, high hit point enemies and putting that damage onto your higher defense things like trolls, Nazgul. It can be really useful, especially as that way to just pop and kill something that, we just needed 3 more damage points. Infighting, and it's gone. Quite a fan, but very situational. And lastly, we have the neutral card. It's Radagast. Pre-Hobbit movie, so he's not wearing bird mess. He's wearing birds. He is a 5-cost, 2 willpower, 1 attack, 1 defense, 3 hit point ally. He is an Istari. He's nowhere near Gandalf, but he costs the same because Radagast collects 1 resource each resource phase. These resources can be used to pay for creature cards played from your hand. Action: spend X resources from Radagast's pool to heal X wounds on any 1 creature. So unlike Gandalf, he doesn't pop in and out. He's there for as long as you want him. Middling stats, 2 quests, so you're pretty clearly just going to send him on quests. But that collecting resources, we have not seen an ally that collects resources yet. Now, obviously this is not as good as when the heroes collect resources, because Radagast can only be spent to heal creatures and to put them into play. So again, you have to build a deck around him. Mainly eagles. There's like 1 spirit ally that's a horse. But, if we look back in the pack, obviously we had Ravel, who has Sentinel, not a high defense but a lot of hit points. You put Radagast on the table and Androdel can just soak while Radagast does that special bird first aid that keeps Landradel in the game. Radagast is also obviously made for the quest that's in the pack, which I'm not a fan of at all. There we go, and that's Journey to Rhosgobel. Some decent cards. Prince Imrahel's always going to struggle with Aragorn to make the case. Dunedain Quest, huge card. I love putting that in my decks. Ancient Manthan is a favourite of mine just because it gives you some card draw. Haldir of Lorien, just that amazing all-rounder. It's really only... I'm not the biggest tactics fan. Landravel is a big card, but you've already got Bjorn in the tactics deck, so do you take Landravel, do you take Bjorn? I guess it depends if you want a more... If you're going Eagles, you can probably justify Landravel. If you're not going Eagles, you take Bjorn, I guess. But there we go. So that's Journey from Rhosgobel. I hope that's been informative-ish. Sorry about the reflection on my glasses. There's no way to record this without a computer. If the focus on the cards was poor, but there we go. This is what happens when you film with a webcam. Okay, see you for the next pack.